Hey everybody, Michael the Librarian of Magic here, finding and cataloging the magical and pointing you to it. Back here with another drawing of a Disney villain. Got my Pluto hat on today, and I am ready to show you another drawing. The same disclaimers as always for these drawings apply, and you can find other links to my videos at the end of this one. With all that aside, I'm going to jump straight into the villain drawing for today, the 23rd of October. We'll go right to it. Today's drawing is of Kronk and Yzma from The Emperor's New Groove in the year 2000. This movie is just one of my favorite Disney movies. It's so funny, and it's primarily because you have the great chemistry between Kuzco and Pacha, the llama and the herder, and then the chemistry between these two, Yzma and Kronk. They're so funny together. She's trying to do evil things, but she's such an over-the-top villain, and then he's just so bumbling, and they went for a really humorous route rather than sort of a ridiculously evil one, and I think it really works for this movie. They didn't land on the humor of the movie for a while. There is a long and storied, troubled production history of this movie, which I'll talk about a tiny bit, but I'm not going to go into great depth about. But it is something worth looking into if you really like this movie, and if you're interested in how movies get made, particularly Disney movies, and just the intricacies of how they bring all this stuff to life and the battles that they have to go through. This is one movie for which that story is very interesting, and there are a lot of ups and downs to it. Originally, this was going to be a movie called Kingdom of the Sun, and also at one point Kingdom in the Sun. And it was going to essentially be like a Prince and the Pauper story. It was going to be very different from what The Emperor's New Groove turned out to be. They had Sting on board to write music, and he did write a bunch of original songs. It was going to be much more musical than The Emperor's New Groove turned out to be, which really didn't have any songs in it at all. There's music in it, but not really. It's not the movie itself is not a musical in a traditional Disney sense. The movie, as I said, the plot was going to be a Prince and the Pauper style plot, featuring a greedy emperor who finds a peasant that looks like him, and he decides to trade places with him just for fun, because he can, on a whim. And then there is the dark sorceress Yzma in that version of the movie, who has a nefarious plan to try to summon the evil spirit Supai to block the sun from view, because she blames the sun for her wrinkles, and she's doing this for Supai in exchange for everlasting youth. Then Yzma discovers that the emperor has switched places with a peasant, and she turns the real emperor into a llama, which is sort of similar to how the Emperor's New Groove turned out. And then she threatens to reveal the Pauper's identity to everybody if the llama emperor doesn't obey her commands. Through this whole process, obviously, the emperor learns humility, and he even falls in love with a female llama herder named Mata, and then they together figure out how to get him out of his llama form, and they fall in love and get married and defeat Yzma, etc., etc. If you've seen The Emperor's New Groove, you know that it's pretty different than that. For starters, in the Kingdom of the Sun treatment, Kronk doesn't feature as a character at all. The movie was far less comedic. Pacha was the peasant in question, I think, in the Kingdom of the Sun treatment, but a much different character who looks like Kuzco, etc., and that eventually became Pacha, the llama or alpaca herder, voiced by John Goodman in The Emperor's New Groove. Originally, I think they were tapping Owen Wilson to voice Pacha in the original Kingdom of the Sun. Anyway, there were lots of battles about whether it should be dramatic, whether it should be comedic, how much music to include, whether the Prince and the Pauper style storyline was original enough, which is one of the reasons why they scrapped it all and did something different. And then they had deadlines to meet. It's all very interesting stuff, and it's well documented. You can read all about it. Also, as a matter of fact, there was a documentary made um, by Trudy Styler, who was the wife of Sting, actually. It's a documentary called The Sweatbox, which really just fully documented the whole up and down process of the making of this movie. The documentary debuted in 2002 at the Toronto Film Festival. It has never been released on home video or DVD, as Disney owns the rights to the documentary and they have yet to release it. I don't know if they ever will someday. I kind of hope they do. It'd be interesting to see, but if we haven't seen it by now, I'm not sure I would hold my breath on that, but hey, you never know. Sting's song "My Funny Friend and Me," which was run over the end credits of the final product, The Emperor's New Groove, was nominated for an Academy Award but did not win. Sting was very mad and crestfallen when he received news partway through production that all of the songs that he'd written then and there were several for the Kingdom of the Sun treatment of the movie were not going to be used in The Emperor's New Groove at all, and they did use the one song over the end credits. That moment evidently, though I haven't seen the documentary The Sweatbox, that moment evidently is captured in the movie when Sting gets the phone call because his wife was the director of the movie. But the nonetheless, in my opinion, because even though their production was troubled, this still turned out to be a really great movie. I'm glad that they went for more of a funny spin on this rather than a dramatic one. I think it was kind of what was called for at that time, as I remember a lot. And in some ways, it almost ended up being a satirical take on Disney movies in general. And I think it launched an era in which Disney movies were made a little bit differently. They kind of went away from the musical vibe, and I think that was good for the studio for a while, and that also ended up being really good for the studio when they went back to music because we had all missed it so much. But I think it was sort of a necessary transitional time, and there were some movies that were made in that era, the early 2000s, that were not the most memorable, that weren't the greatest, but this is one from that era that really stands out, in my opinion. It just is really good, and a lot of it is because of the performances and these two characters in particular. Yzma is voiced by Eartha Kitt. Eartha Kitt is best known to most people for singing the original version of the song "Santa Baby," which you probably hear during the holiday season on the radio a gajillion times every year. I know I do. But that's her voice that you're probably hearing if it's the original version. She was one of the three different actresses that played Catwoman in the 1960s Batman run with Adam West and Burt Ward. She was one of, there were three Catwomen and she was one of them. The other two were Julie Newmar and Lee Merriweather. She also, for Disney fans out there, she also played Madame Zeroni in the film Holes with Shia LaBeouf. That was in the like mid 2000s. And I really like that movie, and she performs in that. Kronk is voiced by Patrick Warburton, and his voice is super distinctive. He's done a gajillion voiceover things, commercials. He's used in a lot of stuff. A lot of people probably know him as the voice of Joe Swanson from Family Guy. But he's been in like Affleck commercials and acting roles. He was in one of the Men in Black movies. He's done a bazillion things, and this is one of the early things that he did as far as voiceover was concerned, and I thought this was a big hit. This is the first thing I remember him from, although he was in stuff before this, and this was a role that was perfect for him. He has a really low voice down here, like that, and it works really well for sort of a bumbling counterpoint to Yzma. So their chemistry is just so great. The jokes they have together, in my opinion, are the best in the movie. And it was really fun drawing them. This is one of my favorite scenes from the movie, so that's why I decided to pick this one and draw it. This is where they invite Kuzco over to dinner, and they actually poison him and turn him into a llama, and they're trying to secretly communicate with each other to get the poison into Kuzco's drink so he'll turn into a llama. And Kronk is not picking up on any of the signals, and it's just really, really funny. So this is my drawing of Yzma and Kronk. I'm really happy with it. This is, in my opinion, one of the better ones that I did. So I'm really glad to have these two in my Halloween villain sketchbook, Yzma and Kronk. Thanks as always for watching these videos. I hope you really like that drawing. If you want to know more about the production of The Emperor's New Groove, I would definitely encourage you to look that up. It's very interesting. I didn't want this video to become 30 minutes long about detailing the production of that, because there's a lot of information, a lot of people involved, a lot of decision makers that kind of were in and then out and then in and then out, and a lot of different creatives and stuff. Anyways, it's well documented, and if you're interested in that sort of thing, I would encourage you to look it up. Go to a search engine and type in stuff about Emperor's New Groove or Kingdom of the Sun, which is what it was called before it was Emperor's New Groove, and you'll find tons of information about it. And maybe one day, hopefully, we'll get the Sweatbox documentary out on some form of home video, or maybe they'll put it on Disney Plus one day or something like that. That would be really cool, just to be able to see how hard it is to get these things made, and why when you hear sometimes that a movie, people part from a movie because of creative differences or creative control, there's a lot of reasons for that. There's a lot of, you know, real creative struggles that can happen in the production of this. There's a lot of people involved and a lot of moving parts. So that stuff is really interesting to me and really cool. I'm still glad that they fought through and they were able to make the movie. And in my opinion, it turned out really good. So thanks for watching this as always. And if you like this sort of content, then give me a thumbs up or subscribe or share this with your friends. And come back tomorrow when I'll have another drawing of a Disney villain. And we're getting really close towards the end of October here, towards the end of this project. So thanks for sticking with me. I hope you're enjoying these. I hope you're learning as much as I am, having as much fun as I am, because I really am. And yeah, thanks as always for watching this. I hope you're having a really great day. I hope it's very magical. I hope this added to it. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.